The episode opens not on the field, but behind the scenes at Chiba Motor Suns Stadium, amidst the pre-game hustle. Stadium staff are preparing the crucial supplies for the game's unsung heroes, the beer vendors. We see kegs being meticulously prepped, hands firmly grip taps, hoses are connected with audible clicks, and pressure gauges are checked. It's a noisy, energetic environment. Among the vendors getting ready is Kokoro, a red-haired girl in the distinctive pink and yellow Yuhi beer uniform, taking a quick drink of water before heading out. Another vendor, Aona, with long brown hair adorned with a blue flower clip, politely requesting, "Can I get a new keg?" The staff confirms her request. Nearby, two other vendors, the short-haired Sara and the dark-haired Kohinata, also in their Yuhi uniforms, are praised by a staff member for their efficiency. The focus shifts to another vendor, a striking blonde girl with multiple ear piercings and a small, noticeable fang when she smiles. A staff member finishes preparing her blue beer keg backpack. "All right," she says confidently, "let's give it a go." The scene cuts to the stands at night during a game. He narrates his situation. Murata is an average salaryman who hates his life, who's all in on that corporate slave life, his demanding boss yelling, mountains of paperwork overwhelming him. He continues, "But there's a place I go to escape it all." The camera reveals the brightly lit stadium around him, the ballpark. Murata settles into an empty seat in the less crowded upper deck, explaining his preference. "I love the ballpark. There are so many ways to enjoy a game. You can throw in with the cheer squad and get loud. You can pick a favorite player and watch intently. Me, I like to find a spot in the open seating section and just lose myself in the game." He closes his eyes, seemingly finding peace. Suddenly, an energetic voice breaks his reverie. Crouching beside his seat is Ruriko. She looks directly at him. Ruriko repeats, slightly impatiently, "I've been asking if you'd like a beer. Didn't you hear?" Murata, flustered, apologizes. Oh, right. I'll take one then." Ruriko's expression instantly shifts to a bright, triumphant smile. She expertly fills a plastic cup from the tap on her keg, the golden liquid topped with a generous amount of white foam. She presents it to Murata along with a pre-calculated amount of change held between her fingers. "That'll be 700 yen, she announces cheerfully. Murata stares at the cup, taken aback. "But that's all foam," he points out, observing the disproportionate head. Ruriko leans in slightly, unfazed. "No good?" she asks innocently before delivering her unique sales pitch with a sly grin. "The foam's got a higher alcohol content. I'm doing you a favor." Murata is momentarily speechless, internally remarking, "I didn't expect to get hard-sold with logic like that." He hesitantly pays her. Ruriko takes the money, her confident facade briefly replaced by a mischievous laugh as she pockets the cash. "I'm totally kidding." Murata is again startled. "You can't tell when someone's making a joke? You'll never get girls that way," she teases him directly. Murata internally winces, thinking, "I know I can't. I've heard it a million times before." Seeing his reaction, Ruriko quickly pours him another beer, this time with a more conventional head. "Okay, here, a new one," she offers, slightly softer. Murata accepts it, murmuring, "Thanks." Ruriko gives a final bright, "Thank you for your patronage," and walks away, leaving Murata bewildered but holding his beer. Murata roots for the player, hoping he can help vent some stress. But then he jumps. To his shock, the beer vendor girl is sitting next to him, prompting Murata to ask what she's doing. She tells him it should be obvious. She's taking a break. Ruriko explains that the gear she wears isn't just for show. It carries gallons of beer and isn't exactly comfortable. Looking at all her equipment, she jokes about how it makes her look like an RPG hero, having to navigate the stairs while keeping a smile on for customers. They have to yell loud enough to grab attention even while the game is going on. She then vents about one of her colleagues who's able to charm all the men with her personality, leading the team in sales with 300 cups a day. Murata sweat drops at how talkative this vendor girl is. Murata comments on how he never knew it was hard to make a sale. He thought cute girls could easily get customers. Ruriko smirks, then leans in, noting he never actually said he thought she was cute. Murata's cheeks heat up as he realizes he let his tongue slip, prompting Ruriko to tease him even more. She then pats Murata on the back, realizing she's his type of girl. Just then, Nokagiriyama makes a play that catches their attention. Murata cheers, excited that his team just scored. Seeing his smiling face, Ruriko wonders why Murata isn't in the cheering section. Murata, embarrassed, explains he isn't very confident and feels insecure about loudly cheering for pro baseball players given his job and career. Ruriko finds his logic twisted, but still wants to boost this forgettable loser's confidence. She leans in close, whispering seductively in his ear, telling him to hang in there and that he's doing a great job at work. This is way more stimulation than Murata thought he'd get after work. Ruriko, still smiling, reaffirms that they're strangers, but hopes it helped. Murata agrees, a bit dazed. Ruriko then gets up, as she's still on the clock and needs to do her best too. As she walks away, Murata stops her. She looks back at him, and Murata makes a shy request for a beer. Ruriko points to his nearly full cup of beer that looks untouched, asking if he's sure. Murata shyly admits this is his small way of supporting her. Understanding the gesture, Ruriko teases him some more, with the gal girl unable to hold it back. It seems he's already fallen in love with her, teasing that it sounds like the two of them are in a rom-com, with him desperately shouting, "Don't go!" After she's done teasing, she tells him to look. Murata looks at her chest, but she tells him, "Not that," pointing instead to her name tag so he can at least know her name. The two part ways, saying goodbye. However, Ruriko soon finds a quiet spot on the stairs, away from the crowds. Her confident demeanor vanishes, replaced by visible nervousness, her face heating up. She's still not used to talking to boys. Her gal persona is all an act, something her veteran coworkers preached she needed to do. Be aggressive and confident to make a sale. She hopes he couldn't tell her voice was trembling. Meanwhile, Murata has no idea and just wishes he could be confident like her. Ruriko wonders how she can celebrate this little accomplishment, thinking a cold beer sounds nice, but another customer tries to get her attention to buy a beer. The episode transitions to a different day. Murata is happy. He gets to pig out tonight watching a baseball game, having a beer, playing handheld video games, and enjoying an ultra-portion meal. He had to spend extra, but it's gonna be worth it. But just as he's about to enjoy his meal, Ruriko calls out to him, stopping him. She's annoyed that he'd think about enjoying a meal without a beer. Murata shyly greets her, and Ruriko reminds him it's been 5 whole days since she's seen him around. Ruriko returns with a fresh beer, hand already out to accept payment. As Murata takes a sip, his eyes widen slightly. This tastes better than last time, somehow. Ruriko, noticing his reaction, seems pleased. Murata looks up at her and she explains, "I get it. You can't beat the combo of beer and a meal pack," referencing the bento box he's now opened. But then she correctly interprets his surprise. Beer tastes way different depending on how you pour it, see? You gotta maintain a 3-7 foam to beer ratio, though he admits internally, "I didn't notice any of that." Ruriko, seemingly mistaking his appreciation for something deeper, leans in again, a blush dusting her cheeks. "You're the only one to catch on so far? Is that a sign of the depths of your love?" she asks teasingly, adding a whispered, "Scary," though she looks pleased. Ruriko straightens up. "Well, buy from me again sometime," she says, waving. As she walks away, he mutters internally, "She's not gonna take a break today?" Then he chastises himself. "What are you thinking? Of course she's not. Don't get your hopes up, man." He punches his own head lightly in frustration. The game starts to get more intense as his team sends out a veteran with over 200 career home runs. Murata looks down, noticing he's empty. He deems he couldn't possibly enjoy this moment without a beer and starts to look for Ruriko. Not seeing her, he decides to look for another vendor, not wanting to seem like some creepy stalker. But just as he's about to signal for another girl, Ruriko suddenly whispers in his ear, asking if he needs a beer. She teases him, suggesting he was looking all over for her. In the end, Murata realizes he can't escape her teasing. He hands her the money, but Ruriko, still smug, wonders aloud if he was getting tired of her, seeing as he was about to buy from another girl. She playfully tells him he's not allowed to cheat on her. Vendors like her need regular customers like him, after all. In his mind, Murata wants to tell her off. "We're not together. I can buy beer from whoever I want." But he doesn't have the confidence to actually say it. As he cheers his team on, Ruriko eyes the sweet, cheerful type of girl Murata was about to order from. Bluntly, she asks him if that's his type. Murata blushes, denying it, but Ruriko smirks, pushing further, questioning if he's into ponytails. Murata says nothing, but his red face says everything. Ruriko deems that's enough to keep his interest and his beer money directed at her. Waving her ponytail around teasingly, if Murata finds himself understanding now, he agrees to be her regular. But like a real-life Nagatoro, Ruriko turns him down, saying he's not good enough yet. Still, she says, "This is a start," flashing him a mischievous grin before heading off. Soon, in the tunnel stairs, she stops. Her cheeks heat up. This is a big milestone for her. She's got her first regular customer. Self-conscious, she checks her hair, wondering if she should really start wearing a ponytail from now on. At Chiba Motor Suns Stadium, there were certain sights that never seemed to change. Near the authorized personnel-only entrance, an elderly security guard named Igarashi Ryuichi stood at his post. With 30 years of experience behind him, he wore his uniform like armor and stood so still he might have been carved from stone. His posture proud, 2 players, young and brimming with energy, approached from the corridor, Kojiro and Brian. They offered respectful greetings to the veteran guard, Shortly afterward, a second group of players emerged, Shishio and Ichinomiya, a pair of fresh faces. A young girl, Ruriko, she called out a familiar greeting to Igarashi, using his nickname, not being much for formal titles. Silently amused, she was likely to sell a great deal of beer that day. The scene shifted to the security break room, tucked away from the bustle of the public areas. There, a younger security guard lounged with a sour expression. Takimoto, a man with longish, wavy brown hair, grumbled openly to another guard, an older colleague who wore glasses and seemed more resigned to the drudgery of their work. Takimoto complained about the reality of the job. Endless standing around, no chance for autographs or real interaction with the players he admired. His voice grew louder as his frustration spilled over until his colleague hissed at him to quiet down. A third guard entered, a clipboard in hand, and called out placement assignments for the next shift. Takimoto snatched the paper and immediately groaned upon seeing that he had been partnered with Igarashi. Slouching deeper into his chair, he toyed with the wrapper of another candy, shrugging off a comment from his colleague about his excessive snacking. Takimoto explained gruffly that it kept his blood sugar up, tossing a piece of candy toward his companion, who declined with a grimace. As the new guard warned them against eating while on duty, Ruriko was out working her shift when a hand grabbed onto her skirt. She jumped, ready to yell at the person, but saw it was a little girl. She leaned down to hear the child, only to hear her cry. The 4-year-old had lost her mother and father and couldn't find them. Ruriko was thrown off, not knowing what to do. The lost child quickly got everyone's attention, and Ruriko was forced to take her through the halls to the lost and found. Reacting instantly, Igarashi stepped up, assessed the situation with a single glance. He quickly radioed in a report. A lost child, female, around 4 years old, currently secured at Tunnel 203. Muttering under his breath, he questioned why anyone would bring such a young child into a crowded stadium. His tone was sharp enough that Igarashi snapped at him, warning him not to speak so harshly in front of the child. Before Takimoto could respond, Ruriko, her protective instincts flaring, grabbed him by the shirt collar and berated him for his insensitivity, citing the importance of positive early experiences. Meanwhile, Miku, hearing Ruriko's scolding voice, burst into fresh tears, her little body trembling with fear. Immediately realizing her mistake, Ruriko crouched down and apologized profusely. Above them, the stadium's loudspeakers crackled to life, announcing that a lost child had been found and was in the care of security. Ruriko pointed toward the speakers, reassuring Miku that everything was being handled. Igarashi retrieved a small, wrapped piece of blueberry candy from his pocket and handed it to Takimoto. He indicated that Takimoto should be the one to offer it. Approaching the crying girl awkwardly, Takimoto knelt down and held out the candy. She unwrapped it with fumbling hands and popped it into her mouth. Almost immediately, her sobs quieted, replaced by a tentative smile that lit up her tear-streaked face. Takimoto, caught off guard by the sudden transformation, froze. In his mind's eye, he saw a younger version of himself, equally lost and terrified, accepting a similar piece of candy from an older Igarashi many years ago. Moments later, Miku's parents came rushing into view, their faces tight with worry. Upon seeing their daughter safe, they scooped her up into their arms, showering her with apologies and gratitude. They bowed deeply to Igarashi and the others before leaving. As the family disappeared into the crowd, later, in the break room, the atmosphere was quieter. With his head bowed low, he apologized, admitting that he had never taken the job seriously before. Choking slightly on his words, he confessed to his own childhood experience of being lost at the stadium and how it was Igarashi's kindness that had stayed with him all these years. Igarashi listened silently, then laughed, remarking that now the same boy was working here under him, doing the same thing he once did. Igarashi felt relieved, happy that Takimoto hadn't ended up hating the ballpark because of his experience. It echoed what Ruriko had said earlier, that early impressions stay with a child all their life, and he thought about how Miku could have ended up hating baseball because of a bad experience too. Outside, all the other security guards and Ruriko listened in on the touching scene, smiling quietly. The ending credits roll, showing all the people who work at the park doing their best. Following the opening, the narrative shifts focus to introduce a new central character, Yuki Takino. The scene finds her standing on a crowded KO line train at 5 p.m. Though she presents a picture of calm, she's actually simmering underneath, despite being a well-known TV reporter. Her mind churns as she watches the baseball fans packed around her, some clad in Motor Suns jerseys and caps, others tapping out rhythms from cheers they hadn't even realized they memorized. She notes the overflowing tote bags stuffed with towels, megaphones, and programs. She absolutely hates baseball fans. Her gaze hardens further when she notices a young blonde woman nearby, casually engrossed in a worn sports newspaper. The sight seems to offend Yuki on a personal level, as even a flashy Jaru girl is a baseball fan. She bangs her head softly against the glass, not understanding how a young person could waste time reading that garbage. These people, these noisy, obsessed fans, she thinks, were the very reason she loathed anything to do with baseball. Yuki is forced to be at the stadium today. The scene transitions to Chiba Motor Sons Stadium. She wears a crisp white jersey with the bold number 1 and the name Kojiro stitched proudly across the back, her cheeks lightly blushing at the thought of him. Her sharp gaze sweeps over the clusters of fangirls already in the seats, most notably the groups of young women giddily clutching signs and cheering for another player, Shishio, number 13. Yuki's lips press into a thin line. Shishio is the heartthrob of the team, the new star, and a magnet for young female fans. Meanwhile, her husband, Kojiro Inukai, receives no such frenzied devotion, and the contrast stings more than she would care to admit. Not that she would be jealous if he had fangirls. In fact, it would make her feel better to know he was desirable. She then hears the cheery shout of Ruriko, offering hyperdrives. Feeling the need to shake off her sour mood, Yuki raises a hand to flag down a passing beer vendor. Yuki recognizes the girl, the same Jaru woman from the train. Her eyes catch sight of the Kojiro jersey Yuki wears. Yuki, taken slightly off guard, shifts her weight, adjusting her sunglasses. She wonders if the young woman admires Kojiro, but Ruriko disappoints her, commenting on how rare it is to see a Kojiro jersey on a young woman, calling her a rare breed. This disappoints Yuki, confirming Kojiro really doesn't have much appeal among female fans. Though saddened by this, Yuki is secretly pleased to be called a young woman, despite being in her early 40s. Yuki then admits, despite hating baseball and the ballpark atmosphere, she came to support her husband, being proud of him. At that moment, Kojiro steps up to bat. With them recently married, she doesn't want him falling into a hitting slump because of her bad vibes. Yuki notices that the bases are loaded. This could be Kojiro's big moment to make a highlight play on ESPN. But just as she starts thinking positively, she hears the nagging loud voice of an old man with a beer, one of the park's regulars, loudly complaining about Kojiro. The old man rants that sending Kojiro up at a clutch moment is a disaster because he's a sub-200 hack. The old-timer is absolutely losing it, hilarious in his drunken outrage, completely unaware that Kojiro's wife is sitting right in front of him. This only strengthens Yuki's hatred of baseball fans, the loudmouths who criticize without ever having played themselves, the ones who don't understand how much guts it takes to even step onto the field. Behind her, the old-timer is still going crazy, not wanting Kojiro to mess up the young core they're developing, hoping he'd walk after this year but roasting him, not thinking another team would be dumb enough to sign him. Finally, Yuki couldn't take it. Downing her beer of liquid courage, she grabs the old man by his collar, yelling at him. To her, he's not a true fan, as he doesn't look at a player's bright spots or encourage them. He just mocks them, calling them trash, calling him an asshole. On the brink of tears, she looks to Ruriko, asking if the girl agrees with her. Ruriko, meanwhile, is just observing the scene like everyone else, completely shocked by the fight. Still, Ruriko thinks for a second and is able to give her one of Kojiro's best stats, his running 120 WRC+. The three have no idea what that stat is, but Ruriko just smiles and says it means that Kojiro is still a good player. At that moment, they hear the cracking of a baseball. On the field, Kojiro just hit a 3-run blast. Everyone cheers as the team scores 3 points, chanting Kojiro's name. Yuki wants to thank Ruriko by buying a beer from her, with the old men doing the same. Ruriko didn't want to accept their money at first, but does so in the end. She doesn't feel like she deserves it, since she actually got the stat from the salary worker nerd, Murata. When the game is over, Yuki calls her husband, telling him she came to support and saw his highlight play. Her husband is happy she enjoyed it. Yuki compliments him on the 120 WRC+ stat, with Kojiro having no idea what the heck that is. The call ends, and Yuki admits that the reason she doesn't sit in the family VIP room is because it always feels awkward sitting there when Kojiro doesn't get a hit or make an impact. So she tried sitting with the regulars for a change, and liked the change of pace. The scene shifts to the vendor staff waiting room. Ruriko sits perched in a chair, her focus buried deep in the sports paper spread across the table. One of her managers sees this and compliments her on learning the game, saying it helps vendor girls sell more. But later, he learns she still has no idea how the game is played. She was reading a comic. In the women's changing room, a new vendor, Sarah, the bright-eyed rookie, is changing and asking her seniors for advice. venting her frustrations about fending off customers who pressed for her phone number, with her still being a high school senior. Kokoro, a 4-year vendor and part-timer, understands, as she struggled with that at first. She tells Sarah to laugh the comments off and keep working. Another girl, Aona, with her usual savvy glint, offers a more calculated approach, explaining how she gave out a Ninsta handle, a fake social media account, to redirect attention while boosting her follower count. Being a 22-year-old college student, and lastly, there's Koinada, the oldest and calmest among them, with 10 years of experience. Being an office worker at 29, she gives even more advice, explaining how she posts food on her Ninsta account, giving her a high follower count, and keeping her regulars feeling like they have a better connection with her. Hearing this reminds the girls why she's the veteran. She uses her calm demeanor to have men wrapped around her finger. Ruriko is further away, being the newest girl at age 20 and only a week into the job. As the girls gossip about their love lives and dating staff members, Ruriko thinks about how no guys have hit on her yet. But then she remembers Murata, which catches the girls' attention. Ruriko plays it off, and the girls want to exchange Instagram contacts. She agrees, but when they leave, she's nervous. She hardly knows how to navigate social media at all. The atmosphere changes when the door creaks open and their manager, Nakaizumi, strides into the room with brisk, heavy steps. He issues a stern reminder about a notorious group of customers the staff had nicknamed the Yabasa 333 Sleazeballs, warning everyone to be especially cautious that evening. He reminds them about the rules, not to give out personal information to customers, because you never know when a stalker might be after them. The job of the checkers is to look after the girls and watch for any inappropriate behavior, asking the girls to keep interactions brief and neutral so no one gets attached. His gaze lingered a moment longer on Ruriko, as if sensing her vulnerability. At the ballpark, the 3 triple sleazeballs are behind her as she hears their attentions on checking out a new vendor girl. The sleazeballs set their sights on Ruriko, ordering 3 beers, but they both know that they want more. The lead man starts to ask her questions, like her age, her personal information, and what she's doing after work, while another one of them records her. The sleazeballs start to ask her a bunch of personal information. The entire time, Ruriko remembers the rules and stays neutrally distant. Eventually, when the topic of Instagram pops up, Ruriko can't take it. She yells that she doesn't understand how technology works, and she makes a deal with the troublemakers. She'll let them be her first followers if they just make the account for her and teach her how it works. The men start to calm down, not expecting the Gyaru girl to snap on them. It next feels like watching tech support at work as they tell her to download the app and ask if she received a code, telling her to put in email or phone numbers. Meanwhile, an old veteran of the park finds the young girl lively, with this adding to the entertainment. Later, the manager sees the video of her yelling at the troublemakers and is in awe of the Gyaru girl, as she got 15,000 retweets and 40k likes, going viral with new followers. Next is a vendor story time, the introduction of another narrative thread focusing on Yamada Natsuno. 2 years prior, as a high school student, she was captivated by the beer vendors at the ballpark, seeing them as idols with their smiles, hair flowers, and cute uniforms. This inspired her. However, the present day finds her working unenthusiastically at Atsumori, a concession stand in the stadium concourse, wearing a plain uniform with a simple blue bandana and apron. After selling an item, she asks herself, where did it all go wrong? As this isn't what she wanted, wishing she could wear their cute uniform, with her blushingly wanting to show off her legs too, remarking she has sex appeal too, damn it. Just then, Murata comes asking to buy a bento, with Yamada switching gears, ready to make the sale. She cries some more, then sells to Yuki. Cries some more, then sells to the lost girl. The narrator sadly remarks that it's been 2 years without anyone seeing Yamada Natsuno's beautiful legs, a true crime as she was ready. Her manager wonders what's wrong with her as she seems down. Yamada plays it off. The manager then unexpectedly offers her a 100 yen hourly raise, citing her hard work. This sudden positive reinforcement amidst her disillusionment leaves Yamada bewildered, muttering, sorry. With this being the reason she hasn't been able to be a vendor girl, she makes them too much money at the register with team members that want her to stay. Yes, she's suffering from success. She cries, damn my stupid work ethic. Murata cuts into her thoughts asking to order fried chicken. He comments on her looking under the weather. She doesn't think much of it. He's embarrassed and walks away, but stops to tell her that he always enjoyed her food. This comment strikes her in the heart, with it seeming like someone finally decided to hit on her. The episode ends with a customer saying goodbye to Yamada and her boss giving her a promotion to shift manager, leaving her conflicted. The episode opens with a brief glimpse of an ongoing game from a high angle. The scene then shifts to the Motor Sun's locker room. The room is functional, with wooden lockers lining the walls. Dennis Young, 27 years old, the team's new overseas import player, sits slumped in a chair, looking profoundly bored and dissatisfied. He idly scrolls through his phone, resting his head on his hand. The screen shows a picture of him standing proudly between his smiling parents, his father. The next image shows his parents enthusiastically holding oversized slices of pepperoni pizza. Dennis's internal monologue reveals his complaints. Japan is too muggy, the pizza portions are disappointingly small, and he finds the Japanese idealistic approach to baseball tiresome and difficult to relate to as a man raised in the streets of Chicago. Formerly of Major League Baseball, Dennis reaffirms his goal to make a comeback to the MLB next season, concluding that Japan doesn't suit him. His last game had been against the Pittsburgh Pirates, batting for the Cubs, a fond memory, as he recalls scoring on them. A narrator's voice intrudes, stating that Dennis doesn't yet realize this day will be a turning point in his life. The locker room door opens, and Joji Cronin, the team interpreter, peers in. Cronin, a slightly weary-looking man, looks concerned. He addresses Dennis, reminding him that his turn at bat is coming up soon. Dennis sighs, reluctantly gets up. Cronin follows him as they walk down a plain corridor, advising Dennis that while good performance numbers are expected from a foreign player, demonstrating team spirit is also crucial for long-term acceptance and success in Japanese baseball, especially if he wants to be liked and have a long career there. Dennis internally scoffs at this, thinking, the scene transitions to the field. The stadium announcer introduces him as the cleanup for 34, the recent import. The perspective shifts to the stands where two elderly male fans from the previous episode talk about Dennis while ordering a beer from Ruriko. One expresses optimism, thinking Dennis is a great player. The other dismisses him as a fly-by-night, only interested in boosting his personal stats to impress MLB scouts and return to the majors, lacking true team spirit. Ruriko finishes pouring the beer and continues her rounds. Back at the plate, a pitch comes in. Dennis watches it, not swinging. The umpire calls strike two. Dennis looks slightly taken aback. Ruriko approaches the two elderly fans again, holding up packets of snacks. Hey, mister, want some salty snacks with that? She asks brightly. She reminds them that the last time they bought snacks from her, the team won. The old man chuckles, complimenting the girl on her improving sales tactics. The other old man notices Dennis staring at them, worried he's going to kick their ass for talking trash about him in Japanese. He starts blushing and sweating, his gaze fixed on the radiant Ruriko. He internally murmurs, "Be beautiful." The narrator clarifies that Dennis is completely distracted. He misses the next pitch entirely as it sails past him into the catcher's mitt. Dennis snaps out of his daze, looking utterly shocked and embarrassed. In the stands, the two MLB scouts exchange unimpressed glances. As Dennis walks back towards the dugout, he mentally kicks himself. Later in the game, the scene returns to the field. It's the fourth inning. The old men comment on how Dennis never smiles, wondering if he's mellowed out. The entire time, however, Dennis is distracted, sneaking looks at Ruriko again, striking out yet again. But to the fans, it appears he's giving off good team spirit. Meanwhile, Dennis is still searching for his beer girl. Later in the seventh inning, the scoreboard shows it's the bottom of the seventh. The score is tied, crucial situation. The announcer reiterates the high stakes as Dennis steps up to bat once more. Dennis tells himself it's time to lock in. He needs to get back to the big leagues, entertain model chicks on Instagram, and get paid $500 million for hitting a ball. He manages to hit the ball, but it's a terrible shot, forcing him to sprint toward first base. As he's running, he spots Ruriko adjusting her hair and is once again blown away by her sweating figure. This causes him to trip, forcing him into a desperate slide to first base. Luckily, the announcer calls him safe, and the team scores, making Dennis accidentally look like a team player. The crowd erupts. The Motor Suns take the lead. He raises his fist in triumph, a wide, genuine smile spreading across his face. It's not so bad here after all. He looks toward the stands where Ruriko is visible, thanking the beautiful girl. A cut shows a newspaper headline splashed across the screen. Dennis Young says he's staying for another season. The scene then shows Ruriko on a train, reading the same newspaper, a gentle smile on her face as she looks at a different article about a player named Psycho. The scene then shifts to another day at the office for Murata as he's on his lunch break reading an article on his favorite team, the Motor Suns. It highlights how his team isn't exactly a winning franchise, but he doesn't care about that. It's not always about winning. His team was voted to have the best relationship with their fans. He muses about making it in time for a game tonight, as he sees an article highlighting how the team mascot, being a giant salamander, was cleaning the park with fans. The scene transitions abruptly to the Motor Suns Stadium field under a bright daytime sky. A title card appears, 2:30 p.m. batting practice before Motor Suns game. The focus zooms in on Kojiro, 1, taking his turn in the batting cage. Despite the good hit, Kojiro lowers his bat and steps back, his expression turning thoughtful and slightly discouraged. His internal monologue reveals his frustration and self-doubt. No good. My hitting's dropped off since last year. He sighs heavily, briefly covers his mouth with his gloved hand, and then grips his helmet with both hands in clear frustration. Damn it, he thinks despairingly. He seems to be fighting against the reality of his aging performance. Just then, the large, gentle form of Sunshiro the mascot waddles onto the scene. Kojiro glances at the mascot and straightens up. He sighs again, acknowledging Sunshiro's presence, projecting his anxieties onto the perpetually smiling mascot. I wish I could always smile like you. Sometimes I feel like the pressure's gonna crush me. He takes a long drink from a plastic water bottle. He starts to let out all his problems on this mascot, like he was in a therapy session. He isn't proud of his career, feeling like a failure, yet he doesn't want to let his career go just yet, not wanting to be benched. Sunshiro, sitting silently beside him, appears to take this in. After a moment, Sunshiro holds up the sketchbook. Higher starting stance? Right elbow up. He chuckles, starting to say, but cuts himself off as realization dawns, marked. All this time, he's been a bit lazy in his stance. He soon does a practice swing, ready to give it a shot, and it looks like a home run every time. Later, the mascot is called Fat by Dennis, but the two bond over pizza, with Dennis offering to take him out for Chicago pizza, amazed that the mascot even knows English. At the counter, Yamada is daydreaming about her Prince Charming Murata after he compliments her. She tells herself to knock it off, he's just a customer. Suddenly, she's scared by Sunshiro's sudden appearance. She tries to wave off her earlier comments, but the mascot throws one of his messages to her, telling her it's okay to love whoever she wants. Yamada's eyes start to sparkle at Sunshiro's advice, thinking the person under the mask must have a lot of experience. After the game, around 8:05 p.m. in the stadium concourse, Ruriko sits dejectedly against a wall, exhausted from poor sales. She wishes she could go home and see her parents, as it's been a while. The team mascot, Sunshiro, appears and uses a sketchbook to communicate. First, it tells her not to slack off. Ruriko sighs. Sunshiro then writes about the importance of thanking customers. Annoyed, Ruriko questions the sudden lecture. Sunshiro follows up by writing that Ruriko looks unwell and asks if she's been eating properly. This angers Ruriko, who tells the mascot to leave her alone. Sunshiro's final message reads, "I'll be there for you if it gets rough, okay?" Ruriko is taken aback and touched, accidentally calling Sunshiro Mom before getting flustered. Sunshiro waves and departs, leaving Ruriko pondering if her mom is secretly working as the mascot. Later, she calls her mom to ask if she's working part-time as a mascot. At 8:30 p.m. in the stands, Sunshiro interacts warmly with fans, catching a foul ball that was about to hit a little girl. He gives it to her, gaining cheers from everyone. In the vendor's room, it looks more like an FS1 race as the girls get their kegs changed, with checkers keeping them hydrated and stocked on beer. Ruriko gets back to her station, where the manager compliments her rise in sales. Her gal persona acts indifferent, but veteran Kohinata encourages her to hit 150 cups today. Ruriko isn't motivated. On the field, the announcer calls out that Dennis has hit 8 foul balls in a row. Murata comments that this normally never happens. Dennis doesn't usually hit many foul balls. But it's a positive sign. Dennis is no longer focused on his individual stats. Suddenly, Murata jumps. He's getting a call from the section chief. The chief informs him that the project deadline has been pushed to 3 days from now, then swiftly hangs up. Murata is jolted awake by Ruriko nudging him. She sees he's down and teasingly asks if he needs cheering up. She does a little cheer, expecting him to join in. Murata points out he's too old for that, being almost in his 30s. Still, Ruriko demands payment for the gesture. Blushing and flustered from Ruriko's earlier cheer, he hesitantly reaches for his wallet. But Ruriko leans back, covering her mouth with a playful, teasing smile. She was kidding the whole time, and he still can't tell when she's joking. During this interaction nearby, a conversation happens between a couple walking home. The older wife comments on how cute the vendor girls like Ruriko are and suggests giving the job a try. However, her husband disapproves, comparing the vendor job unfavorably to being a hostess and stating, "It's not a great look." Ruriko overhears this negative remark. Her playful expression instantly vanishes, her bangs casting a shadow over her eyes as she visibly feels ashamed. Murata notices both the rude comment and Ruriko's sudden change in demeanor. Seeing her distress, Murata is spurred into action. He stands up and passionately defends not just Ruriko, but the hard work involved in such jobs. Every job has its struggles that others won't understand. It's rude both to vendors and to hostesses. Ruriko is completely taken aback by Murata's sudden and impassioned defense. Her anger melts away, replaced by surprise, and a noticeable blush spreads across her face. But soon, she returns to her mischievous demeanor, smirking and asking if that was a "don't you badmouth my woman" speech, wanting to hear him defend her again. She leaves wanting to chat again. As she walks away, Murata notices she didn't even sell him a beer today. Later, the game looks like a blowout, but the team isn't giving up, making Murata smile at their positive spirit. Ruriko returns, mocking his overly excited baseball nature, and sits beside him watching the game. Murata is confused since she still has work, but Ruriko isn't motivated to make a sale. People have stopped ordering beers after the blowout, so she's taking a break. That's when Murata asks to buy a beer. She waves him off, saying he doesn't need to pity her. But Murata insists. He remembers seeing her work hard earlier, remembering what he saw in the hallway. Ruriko getting a refill, her coworkers cheering her on to get 150 cups, with Ruriko yelling back that she doesn't care about her stats outwardly, but when she thought no one was watching, she tried to pump herself up to hit that goal. It made him realize how much she truly cared. Hearing this embarrasses her. She decides to sell him a beer, silently thanking him. But she can't admit this, so she teases him for paying too much attention to her, before waving goodbye to get back to work. In the end, her coworkers congratulate her on selling 150 cups and working so hard. Scene: Motor Sun Stadium, staff waiting room. The scene shifts to the interior of the Motor Sun Stadium staff waiting room. Inside, one of the checkers, Aona, and Sara are gathered around, laughing heartily while looking at Aona's smartphone. The manager exclaims how hilarious the content is. Koinada agrees, stating that it remains funny no matter how many times she watches it. Ruriko enters the room and curiously asks what they are watching. Nakazumi turns to her and explains they are viewing a collection of video clips featuring the stadium announcer, Nagisa Sato. He specifies that these are moments from the starting lineup announcements where Nagisa consistently teases one particular player, Nokogiriyama Ken. Murata notes this teasing has become a running gag over the past 5 years. Sara adds that it's considered a famous specialty of the Motor Sun's ballpark. Intrigued, Ruriko takes the phone from Kohinada. The phone screen displays clips from Nagisa's announcements. First, Nokogiriyama, age 25. Then playfully adds commentary about him getting a big head after hitting a 400 average in the last 5 games. Another clip shows Nagisa announcing Nokogiriyama again, this time revealing that despite swearing to limit himself to 1 treat per day, he ate 3 cream puffs the previous day. Watching these clips, Ruriko bursts into laughter, tears forming in her eyes as she finds the announcer's unique style highly amusing. Ruriko, still chuckling, comments on Nagisa's impressive announcing skills combined with her sharp sense of humor. Aona expresses her own anticipation for what kind of tease Nagisa will deliver today. Sarah jokes that some customers likely look forward to Nagisa's quirky announcements even more than the actual baseball game, prompting more laughter from the group. 35-year-old Nagisa Sato sits alone at her desk, gazing out the window at the empty stadium seats. She takes a sip from a white mug featuring the team's blue axolotl-like mascot. On her desk are binoculars, a notepad with handwritten notes, and a red box of legendary tea leaves. Nagisa appears stressed, lost in thought. Her inner monologue reveals the pressure she feels. She senses the anticipation from the crowd, hearing their imagined voices eagerly awaiting her unique, teasing introduction for Nokogiriyama. Feeling the weight of expectation, she frantically flips through a small pink notebook titled Nokogiriyama Notes, searching for inspiration. Her internal thoughts recount previously used jokes, commenting on his recent batting success, used 2 days ago, and mentioning his pet dog having puppies, also already used. Unable to find fresh material, she clutches her head, visibly sweating, her eyes swirling in panic as she desperately wonders what to do. Suddenly, Nokogiriyama Ken appears outside her booth window, visible through the protective netting. He cheerfully wishes Nagisa good luck with her announcing duties for the day and adds that he's looking forward to it. Nagisa is visibly startled by his sudden appearance and becomes extremely flustered, blushing deeply. She has been admiring the young man, nursing a small work crush on him. After all, how else could she know the little details of his life and stay dedicated for 5 years? She manages to stammer out a right before Nokogiriyama walks away. Left alone again, Nagisa flees the booth and rushes into the nearby women's restroom. She leans over a sink, internally panicking, thinking about how bad the situation is. Just then, Ruriko enters the restroom and asks if she's okay. Startled once more, Nagisa quickly straightens up, denies any problem, and apologizes for causing concern. Ruriko, however, observes Nagisa's flustered state and correctly deduces that she's definitely not okay, though she has no idea this is Nagisa. In a moment of desperation, Nagisa asks Ruriko, a near stranger, what she would do in a situation where she couldn't think of an answer despite trying hard. Nagisa quickly becomes embarrassed at having confided in a vendor girl and starts to apologize, but Ruriko thoughtfully considers the question. She suggests that in such times, the answer often lies within oneself rather than externally. A spark of inspiration hits her. Impulsively, she grabs both of Ruriko's hands, startling the vendor girl, and earnestly asks her for the favor of a lifetime. The scene cuts back to the announcer's booth as Nagisa's 2 male colleagues, an older man and a younger one, enter. Nagisa apologizes for her absence. The younger colleague asks what a vendor girl is doing there. Ruriko retorts that she has work to do and attempts to leave, but Nagisa grabs her arm, insisting she stay for just 10 minutes. Nagisa then firmly pulls the lever on the broadcast console, putting them on air, much to the surprise and protest of her colleagues and Ruriko. Nagisa takes a deep, calming breath and places a hand over her heart. Ruriko watches, mentally guessing what Nagisa intends to do. Nagisa begins the announcement formally. Please listen now for today's starting lineup. The stadium crowd erupts in cheers. Nagisa announces the first 2 batters, Shishio and Yagino, with perfect professionalism. Ruriko looks impressed. The crowd noise swells with anticipation for the 3rd batter, Nokogiriyama, wanting to hear how she's going to joke about him. Nagisa pauses and takes another breath, but her composure begins to crack again. She recalls Ruriko's advice, the answer is inside you. Then she begins Nokogiriyama's introduction, stumbling over her words before blurting out a series of increasingly personal and flustered compliments. How he always greets her kindly through the booth glass, how his unique last name, Nokogiriyama, meaning Saw Mountain, is wonderful compared to her own plain name, Sato, a common Japanese surname. The crowd reacts with audible confusion. In the dugout, Nokogiriyama looks bewildered. Nagisa, realizing she's gone too far, blushes intensely. The on-air light glows prominently. Her colleagues outside the booth are in shock, exclaiming that Nagisa is having a meltdown and trying to intervene. However, Ruriko physically blocks them from opening the booth door, confidently telling them that Nagisa is performing her soul announce. It's obvious she's confessing right now, and she chides them for being oblivious men. They both pause, then ask, what the hell are you talking about? Nagisa, meanwhile, manages to regain just enough composure to finish the introduction, calling Nokogiriyama an amazing player. Later that night, after the game, fans walk outside the stadium, buzzing about the peculiar announcement. Inside the now quiet announcer's booth, Nagisa and Ruriko sit together, talking about the aftermath. Nagisa apologizes for dragging her into her love life. In all her time working here, she's never done anything like that before. Ruriko reassures her it's no big deal. Just then, Nokogiriyama reappears at the booth window. Nagisa is startled yet again, trying not to faint like Hinata. Even Ruriko has to admit she has good taste in men. Nokogiriyama smiles, tips his cap, and asks if she's okay. As he's about to say something, he stops himself, simply wishing her luck and getting back to work. Ruriko thinks she's gotten through to him, and Nagisa thanks her for the encouragement, expressing her wish to announce a championship game. The scene shifts back to the staff room, where Nakaizumi is holding a meeting with the vendor girls. He concludes the meeting but mentions one last item. They've received feedback in the suggestion box for the first time in about 6 months. Sara asks what a suggestion box is. Koinada explains they're discreetly placed in the concourse corners and rarely used, typically receiving only a few submissions annually. Nakaizumi then dramatically reveals that this time there were 10 letters filled with passionate feedback. The surprising detail, all 10 were addressed specifically to Ruriko. Ruriko is visibly shocked, as are the others. Kokoro immediately asks what Ruriko did to warrant such attention. Ruriko defensively insists she hasn't done anything wrong. Nakaizumi clarifies that the letters weren't complaints but expressions of appreciation. He reads excerpts aloud. The beer that Ruriko serves is very tasty. Ruriko's one more reason for me to come to the ballpark, and simply, I love Ruriko. He summarizes it as 10 sheets dedicated solely to praising her. Koinada remarks that Ruriko seems to have acquired a devoted fan. Blushing, but trying to appear nonchalant, mutters, but the others can tell she's enjoying the praise. Kokoro becomes intensely curious about the authors. Sarah suggests analyzing the handwriting to identify the sender's gender or approximate age. However, the manager regretfully informs them that Omatsu inadvertently ruined that possibility. Omatsu immediately bows deeply, apologizing profusely. He explains in a flashback that, while collecting the letters, he was also carrying boxes of equipment. With his hands full, he stuffed the letters into his pocket, forgot about them, and later put his uniform through the laundry. He holds up the now wrinkled, water-damaged, and completely illegible letters. Only the phrase, "I love Ruriko," remains faintly discernible on one sheet. The manager confirms that the handwriting is now impossible to analyze. Koinada tries to console him, pointing out that the sentiment still managed to come through despite the damage. Ruriko becomes curious about who wrote the notes, and the question lingers in her mind throughout her shift. She appears to be in a bad mood as she serves beer to all her regulars. Later, Ruriko stands alone on the stadium concourse, arms crossed deep in thought. Internally, she admits she has no idea who wrote the letters. Later, as she's filling up a cup, her manager calls her over and explains that he was able to get a guy who could help them. The scene shifts to security guard Takimoto. Nakezumi states that although the letters are anonymous, the security guard, Takimoto, witnessed several people near the suggestion box on the day they were collected. He was able to tell her that the notes were written by a woman in sunglasses, a pair of old men, and a little girl with her mother and father, who wrote, "I love Ruriko." All of Ruriko's regulars had left her positive messages. Overwhelmed by the support, Ruriko begins to cry, realizing for the first time how much she means to people. Later, Murata is buying chicken from an overly excited Yamada. He doesn't understand why, but he feels like she's been giving him extra chicken lately. He brushes it off, thinking he's just getting old, completely unaware of her feelings for him. Murata is mesmerized when he spots Ruriko by the stairs. The two walk back to his seat, where she sells him a beer to pair with his chicken. She thanks him for his continued support before heading back to work. In the locker room, Ruriko looks over the letters from the suggestion box again, taking pride in her accomplishments. The narrative opens with Murata walking through the evening crowd outside Motor-Sun Stadium. He expresses internal relief at being able to attend the game after a demanding work week. He reflects on his life as a corporate drone for several years and notes that attending baseball games at the stadium has become his primary method of stress relief. As a baseball enthusiast, Murata anticipates a specific moment of excitement. He walks through a dimly lit tunnel with flickering fluorescent lighting, heading toward the seating area. Upon reaching the gate leading to the stands, he ascends the stairs, and the view dramatically opens up to the brightly lit baseball field and the packed stadium, a sight he finds consistently thrilling. He walks down the aisle, finds an empty seat among the blue stadium chairs, and sits down, taking a moment to relax. It feels as though he's entered a different world, one where he can momentarily forget about his company and work duties. His solitude is interrupted when a female voice calls out to him. Startled, he looks up to see Shimizu Hotaru, a 23-year-old new employee at his company. She greets him cheerfully, commenting on the coincidence of their meeting. Murata, surprised, asks what she's doing there. Shimizu states the obvious. She's there to watch the baseball game. Murata awkwardly agrees, internally realizing that his escape from his work persona is over. Shimizu asks if they can watch the game together and if she can sit next to him. Murata hesitates, explaining that he doesn't participate in cheering and might be a boring companion. Shimizu dismisses his concerns, saying she also prefers to watch games quietly, and takes the seat next to him. Murata internally laments that his definition of quietly involves watching alone, but he resigns himself to the situation. Shimizu then asks him not to laugh, but confesses she likes watching games in uniform. She pulls a team jersey over her head, surprising Murata, who asks if she brought it from the office. Shimizu corrects him. She keeps a jersey at the office specifically so she can attend games anytime. Murata inwardly admires her dedication and thinks the company made a good hire. Murata then asks Shimizu if she drinks beer, and she confirms she does. Spotting Ruriko, the beer vendor, approaching, Murata calls out to her. Ruriko turns, initially cheerful, greeting Murata with familiarity. Murata holds up 2 fingers, indicating he wants 2 beers. Ruriko looks past him, sees Shimizu, and her expression immediately shifts, surprise followed by subtle annoyance as she puffs her cheeks. Shimizu, meanwhile, is engrossed in her phone, taking pictures of a player named Brian and admiring his butt. As they watch the game, like a player named Kojiro hits a pop fly, resulting in an out. Shimizu sighs in disappointment. Ruriko returns with the beers. She reassures them that Kojiro will be fine, citing his impressive WRC plus statistic of 120, information she clearly picked up from Murata previously. She addresses Murata as Mr. Regular. Murata awkwardly confirms this. Shimizu perks up, impressed by Ruriko's knowledge. She agrees with Ruriko's assessment, adding that sabermetrically, Kojiro consistently performs well. She elaborates that baseball is a sport about failure, so one shouldn't get too worked up over a single at-bat. She further praises Kojiro's defensive contribution, mentioning his excellent range for his age and a positive UZR, ultimate zone rating, of plus 8.0, even explaining what UZR measures. Ruriko is visibly stunned by Shimizu's detailed analysis. Murata, surprised as well, asks how she knows so much. Shimizu reveals she used to be the manager for her school's baseball team. Ruriko, feeling intellectually outmatched and possibly jealous, changes tactics. She sits down beside them, looking flustered, and asks Shimizu if she uses Ninsta, a parody of Instagram. Shimizu confirms she does not. Ruriko feels like she has the edge now, expressing mock disbelief and claiming that not using Ninsta means missing out on life. But Polite explains she's ignorant about such things and finds it embarrassing by suggesting Shimizu might enjoy Ninsta if she gave it a try. She thanks Murata for the purchase and leaves. An overlay text reveals that Ruriko is also inept with social media. The scene shifts to Yamada serving a customer who seems to be one of her regulars. As he's getting the bill, he blushes while looking at her and tries to strike up a conversation, telling her she's doing a great job today, but she barely notices him. After serving him, she jumps as she realizes Murata is next, absently calling him her Prince Charming. She quickly does a makeup and hair check, then turns to give him her best smile, only to completely fumble handing him the food when she spots Shimizu. Internally, she asks her Prince Charming who this woman is. It crushes her to see the woman showing off her legs, assuming she must be his girlfriend. Shimizu suggests they have a beer with the meal, and Murata agrees, calling Ruriko over. Ruriko serves them the beer, but overfills Murata's on purpose. At the same time, Yamada runs out to catch Murata, having forgotten to give them their change at the register. Though she's naturally a hard worker and won't let her personal feelings interfere with her job, she notices Ruriko serving them and the overfilled beer. Understanding the gesture, she gives Ruriko a thumbs up, her respect for the girl quietly rising. Ballparks often offer player-themed bento boxes, but this tends to fuel competition among fan groups, since the contents can indicate each player's popularity and value. At the counter, Kojiro's wife sighs, wishing her husband were more popular. His bento set is nearly full. She purchases one out of pity, telling herself at least now he's outsold Mitsui by one. But as she walks away, a young woman buys 2 Mitsui meals. Shocked, she can't understand why Mitsui, to put it lightly, isn't exactly attractive. The young woman turns out to be Kondo Kisa, Mitsui's 25-year-old girlfriend, who just wanted him to beat Kojiro. Feeling petty, she bought 2. Later, Kondo calls over a beer vendor, Ruriko. Ruriko compliments her for marching to the beat of her own drum, since not many young women would wear that jersey or choose older guys like Kojiro or Mitsui. Kondo chuckles, admitting it pains her that her boyfriend isn't more popular. She soon gets serious, declaring she needs to eat, like she's preparing for battle. To her surprise, the woman who bought Kojiro's bento sits in the row next to her, and she bought 3. The 2 women begin a silent food battle, devouring the bentos. After finishing, they both take a sip of beer before bolting to the food stand. They order all the bento boxes of their respective love interests. Satisfied and victorious, they smile, only to hear 2 male fans complaining. They'd wanted to buy Kojiro and Mitsui bentos for the broth and slow-stewed vegetables. Now the women awkwardly consider returning them. On another day, it starts raining. The team is playing against the first-place Fukuoka Sticks while they're in 5th. Ruriko walks through the stands, calling out to see if anyone wants beer. She greets the elderly men, who note she's still working hard despite the rain. They express concern, but she reassures them, showing how she covers her stack of cups with plastic wrap. She admits her hour of makeup is ruined, but doesn't care anymore. The old men notice the intensity in her eyes beneath the smeared makeup. Ruriko spots Murata wearing a poncho and approaches. Murata remarks it must be tough working in the rain. Ruriko asks if her face looks different, already defensive, assuming he noticed the makeup. She aggressively explains it washed off. Murata, confused, says he hadn't noticed anything. Flustered, she offers him a beer as thanks for seeing her different side. Murata hesitantly accepts. In the dugout, Motor Sun's captain Shishio gives a pep talk. They're fifth after interleague play, but he urges them not to be complacent, hoping to use the current game's momentum to overcome the 6-game gap with the sticks. Teammates react differently. One jokingly tells him to speak up, another teases him about going into politics. Mitsui Reito drinks water but spits it out when Shishio mentions it's his girlfriend Kisa's birthday and they should win for her. Everyone laughs. Back in the stands, the rain gets heavier. Murata, sensing something, glances at the umpires huddling. His fears are confirmed as an announcement declares a rain delay. The crowd erupts in boos, worried the lost momentum will cost them the game. In the stands, 14-year-old Sotogara Megumi complains about the weather, saying it stinks and she wishes they hadn't come. Her father, Sotogara Koki, 43, tries to cheer her up, suggesting they take shelter in the concourse. She refuses, saying it'll be too crowded. She mutters she wishes the rain would just die. Ruriko overhears her complaining again and agrees, saying the rain means no beer sales. Megumi is surprised to find someone who understands. She starts asking about the tarp on the field, and her father excitedly explains. The stadium mascot, Sunshiro, comes out with a tiny umbrella, getting a laugh. Ruriko thinks this was a well-played joke from Sunshiro Dono. The support band plays an old cheer theme, which Koki explains helps keep spirits up. Megumi remembers she used to be in the band and pretends not to care, but clearly misses it. Ruriko babbles about being lazy and needing to get back into the groove if everyone else is working so hard. Megumi thanks her, shocking her dad. Ruriko doesn't understand what she did, but she's unknowingly gained a new fan. Everyone in the stadium stays, praying for the sky to clear. Suddenly, the clouds part. The crowd cheers. The elderly men are relieved. Murata removes his poncho, noting that unpredictable weather is part of the charm of an open-roof stadium. The episode ends with the team holding their lead and winning. Mitsui gives a nervous press conference wishing his girlfriend a happy birthday. The episode opens during a bustling game at Chiba Motor-Sun Stadium, focusing on Sara, the diligent high school beer vendor. She happily remarks to herself how much she loves her cute uniform, feeling a sense of pride in her work despite having been at it for a year. A regular customer calls out to her, and she cheerfully serves him a beer, pleased that he remembered her name, a rare occurrence she cherishes. Her brief moment of contentment is shattered by a loud, familiar voice booming her name. Her father and her mom have come to the game, much to her mortification. She tries to shush them, her face flushed with a mixture of embarrassment and annoyance as they loudly praise her and her uniform. Her father, oblivious to her discomfort, insists on taking a picture, pulling out a camera. Sarah protests, reminding him that photos are not allowed while she is working, but her father ignores her pleas and snap a picture anyway, cooing over the result. They proudly declare her the #1 beer vendor in the stadium. Visibly flustered, Sarah quickly refutes their claim. She begins to list the superior qualities of her colleagues in a rapid, defensive monologue. She describes Koinada as a beautiful ace who can nearly sell 400 beers in a single day. She praises Aona, a university student studying to be a teacher, for being an excellent and patient instructor, sharing a tip Aona gave her about climbing the stairs from the bottom to stay in the customer's line of sight longer. She mentions the recently hired Ruriko, who does nothing but goof off and sleep, being the gal of the group, finding her cool, and the aspiring actress Kokoro, praising their respective strengths. Her mother observes that Sara seems to have gained many older sisters, a nice thing for an only child. Her father then attempts to take another photo, but Sarah firmly puts a stop to it. She announces she has to get back to work and sternly tells them not to come too often. Before she can escape, her mother insists she greet everyone else in their group. To her horror and shock, her entire family is here, both uncles, aunts, and grandparents, leading to a wave of enthusiastic calls and more photo requests, which Sarah continues to deny as she hurries away in a state of profound embarrassment. The scene shifts to the vendor's break room after a game on a hot July evening. The girls are exhausted and trying to cool down. Ruriko complains dramatically about the heat, wanting to take a cold bath. Thier Ace makes a comment, worrying if this is beating her down, then she won't survive the rest of the summer. Kokoro offers to go to the vending machine and takes requests from the others. As she leaves, another vendor trying to grab a laundry basket accidentally causes a massive, precariously stacked pile of boxes, bags, and clutter to come crashing down. The incident highlights the extreme disorganization of their break room, a mess filled with items of unknown origin that everyone had been deliberately ignoring. The crash flips a switch in Koinada. With a determined look, she declares that it is time to clean. She immediately takes charge, moving with ruthless efficiency. She picks up items one by one, decisively sorting them into keep and toss piles. The other girls join in, though Ruriko is at a much slower pace. Sara, sorting through a box, discovers an old memo pad from when she first started the job. She hesitates to throw it away, feeling a sense of nostalgia. Ruriko teases the girl for trying to act like an adult so soon, but Sarah isn't bothered by the cleaning. Sarah explains that she is genuinely enjoying the task. Because she is not in any school clubs, she finds the communal activity of cleaning together to be fun, much like a club activity. Ruriko joins in, playfully teasing Sarah for being like a child, which causes Sarah to protest that they are only 3 years apart in age. Kohinata looks on with a soft smile, as these moments don't last forever. Aona lets out a shocked gasp, getting the girl's attention, causing for her to hide the item and excuse herself. As she pulls out an old exchange diary she kept before she started dating her boyfriend, Omatsu. Mortified that she left it in her locker for so long, she tries to hide it, but her reaction piques the curiosity of Ruriko, who follows her, then turns to shout for Sara as she finds some juicy gossip. Ruriko then begs for Aona to share, with Sara and Kohinata also tagging along. Iona frantically dodges their advances, clutching the diary to her chest. Their horseplay is interrupted by the manager, who yells for the girls not to spread the slack-off bug, who sternly tells them get back to work. Nearby, Nakaizumi, the groundskeeper, has also been roped into the cleaning effort. He becomes distracted by an old issue of a weekly baseball magazine he finds, noting that it must be nearly 20 years old. He waxes nostalgic about his youth and points out how much cheaper things were back then. Aona playfully scolds him for getting sidetracked as well. The manager calls for everyone's attention. It contains an article with a picture of a very young-looking Takino Kojiro, the team's veteran star player. The girls are stunned to see the grizzled veteran as a fresh-faced, buzz-cut-wearing teenager. The article also features his high school teammate, a player named Tsubaki. Seeing that no one knows Tsubaki's story, he explains. The two were a famous duo in high school and both hoped to be drafted by the Motor Sons. However, Takino was drafted by another team and became a superstar, while Tsubaki, who did join the Motor Sons, suffered from injuries and quietly retired 6 years ago. There were rumors he went to play in an independent league in America, but his current whereabouts are unknown. With the manager having a man-crush moment on the treasured article, thinking of the memory. The treasure hunt continues as Ruriko triumphantly holds up a piece of paper she found. It is one of Sarah's old high school tests. Noticing the poor score, Ruriko teases Sarah, speculating that she can't hide her test scores for her sweet parents here. Sarah, deeply chagrined, snatches the test back, accusing Ruriko of acting more like a child than she does. This causes Ruriko to stop and apologize, as she questions if she's acting too much like a kid. The most significant discovery is yet to come. Iona pulls out an old, forgotten Yuhi beer vendor uniform. It is vastly different from their current outfits, designed to look like a real baseball uniform, with a jersey top and short trousers. Nakaizumi notes that he forgot to return it to the head office. He explains that it is from the previous generation of uniforms, a time when there were also male vendors, and they all wore matching outfits. With Kohinata internally thinking that only herself and Nakaizumi were around during that time. As the girls admire the retro design, Iona feels a small pocket and pulls out a faded photograph. The picture shows two people. One is a young blue-haired girl with glasses, and another Gyaru girl that Ruriko has to admit as serious legendary aura. With them wondering who the blue-haired girl with glasses is, as they've seen the face before, with Sara unable to see the picture. The manager finds it amusing how the girls found the old picture, as that also brings back memories. With him giving the girls a hint, the girls demand answers, so he points behind him to reveal Kohinata, shocking all of them as the glow-up was real. The stylish Gyaru in the photo is a 19-year-old version of their current ace vendor. With that making Kohinata 29, Kohinata is utterly mortified. She turns her back on them, refusing to look at the photo and insisting they must only move forward, not look back, bombarding her with questions about her dramatic change in style. Ruriko and Sara beg her to try on the old uniform and replicate her old pose. The scene shifts, the All-Star game held at the Motor Sun Stadium for the first time in 8 years. The stadium is completely sold out, filled with a diverse crowd of fans from all 12 professional teams. creating a unique and tense atmosphere. The beer vendors feel the pressure as they are serving unfamiliar and often more critical customers. Fans can be overheard comparing the stadiums, with them checking out Ruriko, shocked to see a Jaru girl but still think their home arenas has hotter vendor girls, with them also saying their team is better as the Motor Sons only have 3 players in the All-Star game, with Ruriko fuming from the arrogant fans. The pre-game festivities begin with the Home Run Derby. Ariba, the previous year's home run king from the Fukuoka Steppes, puts on an incredible power display. Next up is Danis, who is studying Ariba's potential to make it to the MLB, thinking he could be a challenge. Ruriko, feeling insulted, roots for Danis in her heart to avenge them. The team captain goes to cheer Danis on. Danis, a powerful foreign player, seems to be holding back at first, concerned that changing his swing for the Derby might mess up his form for the regular season. However, as he hits home run after home run, he becomes more invested. A deep sense of pride takes over. He cannot stand the thought of his team being looked down upon, and he resolves to win. He puts on a spectacular show, launching towering fly balls into the stands and reaching 12 home runs. But then he spots his mystery Batgirl, who he dreams of taking back to America, Ruriko. In the end, however, he falls just short, and Ariba is crowned the champion. Danis walks away, visibly frustrated, muttering in disbelief. Next is the mascot and cheerleader performance. The staff gives final instructions, reminding the performers to stick to the script as they are running behind schedule. The main event is a scripted pro wrestling match between the Motor Sons mascot Sunshiro and the Styx' mascot Kaiser. The fight begins as planned, with Kaiser immediately hitting Sunshiro with a kick that sends him flying. The announcer enthusiastically calls the staged action as Sunshiro gets up and charges, only to be caught in another of Kaiser's signature moves. The mock battle escalates into a staged brawl, culminating in Kaiser putting Sunshiro in a chokehold for the victory. The Styx fans roar with approval, with one commenting that the performance perfectly replicates the outcome of actual games between the two teams, a clear jab at the Motor Sons' poor record against the Styx. As Sunshiro lies defeated on the field, a passionate Ruriko yells from the stands, her voice filled with frustration after seeing the suffering of so many losses today. Ruriko asks Sunshiro if he is okay with the Motor Sons being humiliated like this, demanding he show some fighting spirit. The fans' words seem to strike a chord within the mascot. As he's heard nothing but the Styx' arrogant fanbase mock their team, a switch is flipped inside Sunshiro. Ignoring the script, the Styx mascot deer, with frantic gestures, tells him to stay down. Sunshiro slowly rises to his feet. The deer panics, as he wasn't supposed to fight for real. They are on a tight schedule and he needs to be carried off on a stretcher. But Sunshiro is unresponsive to her pleas. He turns and charges at the unsuspecting Kaiser. The announcer, caught completely off guard, struggles to call the unscripted action as Sunshiro unleashes a furious, genuine-looking attack on the rival mascot. The Styx mascot was not prepared to get his ass beat today for the shit-talking the fanbase did. I feel bad for this guy, as he's the one who needs the stretcher. Boy doesn't even get a raise for getting his ass beat live on TV. After the performance, a furious staff team confronts the person inside the Sunshiro costume. He berates him for going off script, explaining that his improvisation completely threw off their tight schedule and caused a logistical nightmare. The person inside the suit can only stand there and take the scolding. The episode begins in a press conference scene on the field, where manager Makito of the Chiba Motor Sons is addressing a group of reporters. One journalist notes the team's recent improved performance, observing that they are now only 5 games behind the first-place Styx and still have a chance in the second half of the season. Makito, calm and focused, agrees that they are finally playing to their potential, but emphasizes a one-game-at-a-time mentality, stating that victory is built on a foundation of small, consistent wins. Another reporter shifts the topic to the team's catcher, Kawamatsu, whose playing time has increased dramatically compared to the previous year. He asks Makito for the reason behind this decision. Makito's demeanor changes from placid to passionate. He leans forward, urging the reporters to watch Kawamatsu's play more closely. He explains that on every infield ground ball, without fail, Kawamatsu sprints at full speed from behind the plate to back up the throw to first base. Makito acknowledges that this looks like something out of Little League, and that a throwing error at the professional level might only happen once in 100 plays. He then delivers his core philosophy: He values the type of player who is willing to put in the effort for the 99 times it proves to be useless, because that dedication is what makes the difference on that crucial 100th time. He calls this dedication his Megan, or personal motto. Ruriko reads this and is impressed, as this is a truly golden life quote. The scene transitions to the pre-game briefing for the Yuhi beer vendors. They are practicing their customer service call and response phrases in a loud, ritualistic manner. Kokoro whispers to Iona that she can never get used to this routine, and Iona quietly agrees that, honestly, it feels rather pointless. As they finish their practice, Ruriko, having been deeply moved by the broadcast of Manager Makito's press conference, loudly declares to everyone that they should not begrudge the 99 instances of seemingly useless effort. Carrying this newfound philosophy with her, Ruriko heads into the stands with renewed vigor. A customer calls for a beer just as the Motor Sons execute a triple play on the field. The fan remarks on her perfect timing. Ruriko doesn't know what the baseball term is, but smiles, beaming, and delivers one of her practice lines, thanking him for his patience. He praises her for being so cheerful and energetic. Another customer calls for her, and after serving him, he too compliments the politeness of the Yuhi vendors. A realization dawns on Ruriko. She begins to consciously deploy the phrases from her training, "Thank you for waiting," "My sincerest apologies," and notices the consistently positive reactions from the customers. She understands now that the repetitive, seemingly meaningless practice was not useless at all. It was directly contributing to her success and the positive image of the company. This epiphany fills her with an almost frightening level of conviction. She begins to deliver the lines with an intense, wide-eyed fervor that borders on unsettling. Her resolve is tested when she encounters a pair of foreign fans. After serving them their beers, one of them cheerfully wishes her a nice day. This triggers another connection in Ruriko's mind to the final and, in her opinion, most useless phrase they were taught to practice, "Have a nice day." She realizes that even this has a purpose. Moments later, a group of older men try to order lemon sours and highballs from her. She politely informs them she only sells beer. They grumble, saying that at their age they need the power of habu, a type of Okinawan snake liquor. An absurd connection forms in Ruriko's mind. The phrase "have a nice day" sounds vaguely like "habu one nice day." Habu is a nice day. Convinced this is another piece of hidden wisdom, she begins to softly chant the nonsensical phrase to herself. Her storyline culminates as she watches the game from the stairway. She sees the catcher, Kawamatsu, faithfully sprinting to back up first base after a routine out. In that moment, she feels a profound connection. She understands that Kawamatsu's seemingly wasteful running and her useless vocal exercises are born from the same principle. With tears in her eyes, she pledges her undying loyalty to Manager Makito, with the coach asleep on the job. The focus then shifts to a different story within the ballpark, centered on the players' clubhouse. It is 1:30 p.m., shortly before team practice, and the players are in their private buffet-style cafeteria for lunch. Wataru Ichinomia, a young infielder who's on his phone, rushes in late. He has a brief, awkward encounter with his double-play partner, the star player Shishio, who is just leaving, but comments on him being late for practice. Shishio casually mentions that the fried chicken with sweet and sour ankake sauce was particularly good and that Ichinomiya would surely like it, before leaving with his teammates. Alone, Ichinomiya is consumed by his insecurities, as he never liked talking to that upbeat guy who's the same age as him. He internally compares his dismal .190 batting average to Shishio's impressive .320. He reflects on their different paths. Shishio, a first-round draft pick and a physical prodigy who quickly became a star, and himself, a short sixth-round pick only playing in the first-string team because a senior player was injured. He once believed his defensive skills were superior, but after playing alongside Shishio, he realized he could barely keep up with his partner's speed and talent. He sees Shishio as a genius and himself as a mere journeyman, a bonsai to Shishio's towering presence. Trying to shake off his gloomy thoughts, he goes to get the fried chicken Shishio had recommended, only to find the tray empty. This small disappointment feels like a crushing blow, another symptom of his failures. If only he hadn't been late. He sinks into despair, questioning if he can survive in the intensely competitive world of professional baseball, and wondering if he has any allies at all. Just then, a kind, elderly cafeteria lady slams a pile of chicken on his table. The man is surprised to see the chicken as the afternoon rushes over, so this means she made a new fresh batch of fried chicken just for him. She gently tells him that she is on his side. Then, in a quirky turn, she adds that he reminds her of her beloved deceased dog, affectionately patting his head. She then shares a piece of institutional trivia with him. The rice served in the players' cafeteria is cooked in the very same central kitchen as the rice served to all the staff in the main stadium. She explains her point. Everyone who works at the ballpark is, metaphorically, eating from the same pot of rice. Therefore, they are all his teammates, all on his side. Though slightly bewildered, Ichinomiya is touched by her kindness. He begins to eat the chicken, admitting that it is delicious, and Shishio's words echo in his mind. Later, during the game, this newfound sense of connection translates to the field. With runners on first and second, the opposing team hits a sharp grounder up the middle. The pitcher throws the ball and it's deflected, but Ichinomiya dives, making a spectacular stop. In one fluid motion, he executes a perfect glove toss to Shishio, who pivots and fires to first, completing a breathtaking double play. The commentators praise it as a major league caliber play, and their foreign coach enthusiastically compliments their perfect chemistry as a duo. Feeling encouraged by the success, Ichinomiya works up the courage in the dugout to ask Shishio to have lunch with him the next day. Shishio agrees with a casual air. Ichinomiya then tries to share the meaningful story about the rice. He begins to explain that the rice in the cafeteria is special, but before he can finish, Shishio cuts him off. He states nonchalantly that he is a bread person and has never actually eaten the cafeteria's rice before asking what was so special about it. Ichinomiya's brief moment of connection shatters, and he silently concludes that he still dislikes this guy after all. Sometime earlier, Ruriko had participated in a photo shoot for a special feature in Weekly Baseball magazine for vendor girls. The scene shows her posing for the camera, following the photographer's instructions for natural smiles and keeping a stern Jaru persona. Murata is in the stands reading the new Weekly Baseball magazine. Just then, Ruriko calls out to the older man, sitting next to him. She finds him poring over a copy. She asked about if he read it all yet. Then she excitedly directs him to page 146. There, in a feature on stadium food, is her glamorous photo. The staffer is genuinely impressed, calling it a major achievement. Ruriko feigns a humble brag, worrying aloud that her fans might cause a commotion, all while beaming with pride. She playfully tells the staffer that to commemorate the occasion, she will sell him a beer at the special price of 700 yen for fans, which is, of course, the regular price. She dramatically sweeps away, proclaiming that a celebrity like her is very busy. However, she returns moments later, complaining that no one is buying a beer from her, even though she got a cover article on the most popular baseball magazine in Japan. But Murata argues it's because the stadium is nearly empty due to the unappealing matchup between two low-ranking teams. The quiet moment leads to a more personal conversation. She asks the older man if he used to play baseball, given his extensive knowledge. He explains that while he has always loved the sport, he was terrible at athletics and was effectively a member of the go-home club in school. He confesses that his admiration for the players is a form of hero worship, as their physical abilities seem superhuman to him. He then asks Ruriko about her own school activities. She admits that she was also in the go-home club, spending her afternoons at karaoke or taking photos with friends. They share a brief, knowing smile over their similar high school experiences. Ruriko grows reflective, confessing that this job is the first time she has ever felt like part of a team, and she loves it. She says that wearing the uniform and being called a vendor girl makes her feel like she is transforming into someone else, a different, more capable version of herself. The man quietly says he thinks he understands the feeling. Realizing she has broken her glamorous persona, Ruriko playfully snaps back into character, striking a series of silly poses and daring him to take a picture, which he bashfully refuses. The two, however, are being watched by all the other vendor girls huddled behind the bleachers who can't believe Ruriko is just winging this, as she seems to be a nervous but free spirit in dating. Later, Murata goes to buy a bento box fried chicken for himself. Yamada, seeing his handsome starface, calls Murata, nicknamed the Prince, saying it with awe and in her voice. As Yamada is preparing his order, she feels Murata's gaze on her. Her heart flutters. Meanwhile, Murata, seeing Yamada, recalls what Ruriko said about her transformation and wonders if this girl also has her own story. She immediately assumes he has recognized her from the magazine. She shyly asks if he has read this week's weekly baseball, and he confirms that he has. Overjoyed, Yamada believes he has seen her photo and thinks he now wants to talk to her. With Yamada glad she went to the salon before the photo shoot. However, she glances over at the copy of the magazine and freezes. Underneath her beautiful photo, the caption reads not Yamada, but Kawada. The magazine has printed the wrong name. Her fantasy collapses in an instant, as now Prince Charming knows her by the wrong name, making her bursts into tears. The episode opens by establishing a key feature of the outdoor Chiba Motor-Sun Stadium, the strong, unpredictable wind. This natural element is shown to be a major factor in the game, influencing every play. During a tense moment with 2 outs, a batter hits a high pop fly into foul territory. The ball initially seems headed for the stands, but a powerful gust of wind blows it back into play. The shortstop, Shishio, makes a spectacular running catch near the wall for the 3rd out, earning praise from the game's commentators for his skillful read of the wind. In the dugout, the pitcher, Mitsui, thanks Shishio for saving him. Shishio, while accepting the thanks, Mitsui warns him not to be so reckless and risk injury. Shishio, with a touch of bravado, reassures the man that he's fine and tells him to focus on his own pitching, adding that he is doing it for Mitsui's girlfriend, Kisa, who is very pretty. This earns a sharp, annoyed retort, questioning why he's trying to impress his girlfriend. The wind continues to play a role as the Motor-Suns come to bat. The team's veteran slugger, Kojiro, steps up to the plate. The wind is now blowing out towards right field, creating a favorable situation for a left-handed power hitter like him. For the pitcher, it creates a headwind, making fastballs less effective and forcing a reliance on breaking balls. Kojiro, aware of the advantage, focuses intently, ready to take a mighty swing. Ruriko is serving beer to a group of her regular customers. She playfully teases one of them, telling him she poured his beer in a special way today and challenging him to figure out the difference. While working, Ruriko sees Murata and smiles approaching, calls out to him. At that exact moment, a violent gust of wind whips through the stands, flipping her short skirt up. This moment lasted a long time, so he can't help but see. His face a mask of shock and awe. In a low voice, she questioned if he saw it. He then breaks into an ecstatic, almost reverent clap, exclaiming that he saw it perfectly, that only thrills like this can happen at the ballpark, and that he is even grateful to the wind for the experience. Ruriko, misinterpreting his excitement completely, chides him for getting so worked up over seeing her underwear. She declares with nonchalant confidence that she wears athletic shorts underneath, so she is not embarrassed at all, as he saw nothing, but she teases him asking if he wanted to take a peek. The man, suddenly realizing her mistake, frantically tries to correct her. He stammers that he was not talking about her skirt, but about Kojiro's home run. A replay on the big screen confirms that Kojiro hit a massive home run just as the wind blew. Murata clumsily explains that since Ruriko was standing in front of him, he thought she was worried she was blocking his view. Ruriko laughs off the awkward moment alone, questioning whether a man would truly only be looking at a home run in that situation, questioning his manhood. He stammers an apology and she dismisses it, whole time pouring his beer even though he didn't order it. As he accepts it, he notices that the foam head is smaller than usual. Ruriko, impressed, reveals that he is correct. She intentionally poured it with less foam so it would not be blown away by the strong wind. As she walks away, both characters have their own internal monologues. Murata is immensely relieved that his clumsy excuse worked, admitting to himself that there was no way he could have missed seeing her underwear from that angle. Ruriko, meanwhile, is pleased that he correctly identified her beer-pouring technique, finding his perceptiveness impressive, while also concluding that he must be incredibly dense not to have seen anything as she lied. On another day, 2 girls pass by getting the attention of the men as they were gorgeous. Ruriko, Aona, and Kokoro are enjoying a day off by attending a game as fans. They are dressed in stylish casual clothes, a stark contrast to their work uniforms. Ruriko is particularly enthusiastic, Aona promising her friends she will teach them how to have the most fun at the ballpark. With the men unable to understand how a Gyaru, prep schoolgirl, and idol type all became friends as they're so different. They briefly stop by their workstation to playfully greet their on-duty colleagues, as Aona gives the staff a snack as a gift to make them stay focused without them, with the manager shooing them away from the restricted area. They find seats in the stands and are soon joined by Sara, who is working her shift. They cheerfully order 3 beers and insist on taking a picture together. Sara protests that she is on duty, but they pull her into the photo anyway, capturing a happy moment of friendship. Ruriko gets up to go to the bathroom. While away from her seat, she feels confident in her outfit, and on her way back to her seat, sees the mister from work. So, wanting to talk and sit next to him, she walks by him. Murata doesn't recognize her, but thinks a lot of young, beautiful women have been coming to the games more recently. Ruriko then walks past him again, then does it again, making Murata confused what she's doing. Then, annoyed he hasn't called out to her yet, she roughly sits right next to him, shoulder to shoulder. Murata is timid and afraid of enraging the Gyaru girl and puts on his headphones, trying to ignore her. She, now enraged, calls out to the man, but he doesn't notice her still. He does not recognize her in her casual clothes and sunglasses, with her trying to get him to look at her. Finally, having enough, she yells at him and walks away, but by the sound of her voice again, he realizes it's Ruriko and tries to get her to come back. Now, 7 days later, Ruriko is now back at work. First thing she does is storm over to Murata to sit next to him. Ruriko then launches into a dramatic, theatrical tirade, berating him for not recognizing her as a regular customer of hers. She accuses him of seeing all the vendors as the same, and sarcastically suggests they probably need a special marker to tell them apart. Flustered, Murata stammers a denial. Ruriko is embarrassed and hurt as she complains that all men, I guess, are all the same, hoping he was different. His eyes then land on a small, flower-shaped clip in her hair, which she was not wearing previously. He awkwardly guesses that she put it there as a marker. Ruriko is stunned into silence by his correct, albeit accidental, guess. He quickly tries to backtrack, but the damage is done. He offers a clumsy compliment on how nice the clip looks, but Ruriko, now thoroughly annoyed, dismisses his attempt to placate her and insults him before storming off, but is a little happier. On another day, it's a busy day in the break room, with Ruriko doing a poor job in helping Sara with her summer math homework. Sara complains that she knew asking Ruriko for help was a bad idea, but the problem is the smartest of their group, Aona, seems unapproachable today, with Iona being deep in her own study book. Iona is visibly anxious, worrying about her upcoming teacher certification interview, with it being in 2 days. Her quiet study session is interrupted when she is introduced to a reporter named Ijima. She has been selected for a day-in-the-life feature story about a beer vendor. Aona, though nervous about being shadowed, agrees to cooperate. Ijima asks her to act naturally, as if he were not there, but he shows he has ulterior motives. That morning, Ijima is in his messy apartment, still sleeping early in the morning when he receives a phone call. He believed it was his mother who is making a phone call to pester him about some grapes, but it is his editor, Otake, of Buzzing Web. Hearing this, Ijima instantly perks up to speak to the man. But the editor doesn't have good news, as he's informing the reporter that his recent articles have been bombing in views. The editor, Otake's tone turns aggressive and dismissive, as he's here to make money. This makes Ijima bow his head and ask for forgiveness, promising to make him money if he has another chance. Otake then gives him a headline to produce. He explicitly instructs Ijima to abandon the heartwarming feature and instead write a sensationalist expose on the forced labor of beer vendors. He suggests fabricating details about bullying over sales numbers, intense pressure, and vendors secretly hating the customers behind their fake smiles. The editor doesn't care if it's a lie, as it will go viral, with Ijima's smile showing he doesn't care either. His line of questioning with Iona immediately shifts. He begins probing for negative details, asking if she gets her shifts reduced for poor sales, and insinuating that the backstage environment must be cutthroat and toxic due to the sales-driven culture. Iona calmly but firmly refutes this. With a warm smile, she explains. While acknowledging that sales numbers are important, she insists that there is no backstabbing. She compares their dynamic to a baseball team's bullpen, where pitchers who are not in the game support and encourage the one who is on the mound. She explains that they all cheer each other on in the break room because they are teammates. Ijima remains cynical, pushing her on the topic of difficult customers and the emotional toll of maintaining a constant smile. Aona doesn't believe that the case as she points to all the vendor girls working serving customers. She explains that the team is happy and getting prepared for the playoff run their own, so have no time to give fake smiles as the energy in the stadium is real. Suddenly, the man gets a call from his editor who wants to see how things are going. The man lies saying he's got a juicy story waiting for him, but is currently doing the interview right now. The editor is happy to hear this and hangs up. Before Iona can answer, Ruriko appears. Hearing that it's about an interview, confidently declares she's a master at this, bragging that she was given a cover article doing an interview featured in Baseball Weekly magazine, completely oblivious of the situation. Hearing this high achievement, Ijima sees her as a potential source for the juicy story his editor wants. He asks her if it is difficult to get customers to buy beer and suggests they must use special techniques, giving her the 5 W's in sales. Ruriko doesn't know what they are, but agrees to using them. But instead, she repeats the basic customer service drills they get with her having a modified Jaru's version. Her display of extreme, comical self-confidence is the exact opposite of the manipulative cynicism Iijima was looking for. Frustrated, Iijima turns back to Aona, bluntly telling her that her talk of teamwork and passion is just naive idealism. He states that professional baseball is a business, and for her, the only thing that matters is whether her beer sales make money. Iona listens patiently before delivering a simple, heartfelt response. She says that she may not understand the complexities of business, but she knows that the fans come to the stadium because they love baseball. The players are on the field because they want to win, and she does this job because she genuinely enjoys it. She posits that everyone is there for their own reason and asks if that's not enough. Her sincere, unadorned speech has a profound effect on Iijima. He falls silent and quietly says that she's just the type of person to see the good in people. He says it not as a criticism, but as a dawning realization as to what he's doing. He warns her that the world is not full of such good people. Aona takes this to heart, as this has helped her find out what she wants to be as a teacher. After the interview, Iijima is having a smoke in the smoking area. He then gets a call, believing it's his editor, properly greets him. But once he hears the sound of his mother, goes back to a casual, dismissive tone. The mother apologies for not calling him this morning about the grapes, but Iijima is annoyed with how many grapes she gives him, as he can't even eat that many. Still, the phone call becomes warmer as his mother talks about his articles, having read them, always liking them. But Iijima, knowing what he's about to write, doesn't want his mother to see that side to him. This moment humanizes the man. After this, he makes a call to his editor, as he can't go through with writing an article the way he wanted, as it goes against the character his parents raised him under, but promises the next article will sell. The final scene shows the girl back in the break room, and she realizes that this is the type of teacher she wants to be, with her wanting her classroom to be a noisy but show easy camaraderie on full display. As students become friends and get along with their classmates, she has a newfound appreciation for her friends, grateful to have such good junior colleagues, knowing becoming a teacher means she'd have to give this up. Sarah and Ruriko come over, with Ruriko having ideas of turning the high school girl into a Jaru.